Well, good morning and welcome to Wake Up Wednesday. This is Regina Clark. My business is Brainwave Balancing here in colorful Colorado Springs to be exact. And I'm excited to be with you today and continuing on the topic from this little book, The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. So I am going to go backwards. So when I started this, I guess a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we went with the first agreement, which was be impeccable with your word to others and to yourself. We put that in two parts, but that was actually chapter 2 of the book. So I'm going to go back because I feel like that this information, chapter 1, is called Domestication and the Dream of the Planet. And I feel like it's a really important foundation to understand in the bigger picture of the book. And I'm going to do my best to keep it brief. Don't know how I do. I figure if the information interests you, you'll continue listening. And if not, that's okay too. And you're always, of course, welcome to get the book yourself to see what you can find and what truths you can uncover. Okay, so with this one, I'm going to start by talking about our attention. So I'm going to just be going straight through the chapter. So by using our attention, we learned a whole reality, a whole dream. And then he says attention is the ability that we have to discriminate and to focus only on that which we want to perceive. We can perceive millions of things simultaneously. We've talked about this. The subconscious mind is taking in millions of bits of information per second. But by using our attention, we can hold whatever we want to perceive in the foreground of our mind. So the frontal lobe, humans are the only one that have the ability to do that. This developed frontal lobe and our ability to think and reason. So he's saying the adults around us, as we were growing up, they hooked our attention, they got our attention, and put information into our minds through repetition. So this is the way we learned everything that we know. Nothing crazy or new here, but it becomes an important point when we think about learning and information. So by using our attention, we learned a whole reality or a whole dream. We learned how to behave in society, what to believe, what not to believe, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, what is good, what is bad, what is beautiful, ugly, right, and wrong. It was all there already. All that knowledge, all those rules and concepts about how to behave in the world. So that's how, as children, this is how we learn. We basically believe everything that the adults in our lives tell us. We agree with them, and our faith is so strong that the belief system controls our whole dream of life. We didn't choose the beliefs, and we may have rebelled against them, but we were not strong enough to win the rebellion. The result is surrender to the beliefs with our agreement. So he calls this process the domestication of humans. So children are domesticated in the same way that we domesticate a dog, a cat, or any other animal. In order to teach a dog, we punish the dog and we give it a reward. We train our children, whom we love so much, the same way that we train any domesticated animal, with a system of punishment and reward. We're told you're a good boy, you're a good girl when we do what mom and dad want us to do, and when we don't, then we're a bad girl or a bad boy. When we went against the rules, we were punished. When we went along with the rules, we got a reward. We were punished many times a day. We were also rewarded many times a day. Soon we became afraid of being punished and also afraid of not receiving the reward. The reward is the attention that we got from our parents or from other people like siblings, teachers, coaches, friends. And the reward feels good. So we keep doing what others want us to do in order to get the reward. With the fear of being punished and the fear of not getting the reward, we start pretending to be what we are not, just to please others, just to be good enough for someone else. We're trying to please mom and dad, teachers at school. We please the church. So in many ways in our lives, we begin acting. We pretend to be what we are not because we are afraid of being rejected. The fear of being rejected becomes the fear of not being good enough, and eventually we become, in so many ways, someone that we are not. We actually become a copy of mama's beliefs, daddy's beliefs, society's beliefs, and religion's beliefs. The domestication is so strong that at a certain point in our lives, we no longer even need anyone else to domesticate us. We don't need mom, dad, school, or church. We're so well trained that we are our own domesticator. We become an auto-domesticated animal. And I know the terminology is different, but I tell you, you just got to think, hang in there and think about some of these things. Because it's simply basically beliefs that are getting passed down from generation to generation. We can now domesticate ourselves according to the same belief system that we were given and using the same system of punishment and reward. We punish ourselves when we don't follow the rules according to our belief system and reward ourselves when we are the good girl or the good boy. This is all based on a belief system that we didn't even necessarily choose to believe. These beliefs are so strong that even years later, when we're, as we're grown, we're adults, or we're certainly old enough to make our own decisions and to decide what's good for us in our lives, it's so strong that even when we're exposed to new concepts and try to make our own decisions, we find that these beliefs still control our lives. So in other words, whenever you go against, he calls it the book of the law, so it's just whatever you have decided is true for you or whatever agreements you've made in your life, you'll feel a funny sensation in your solar plexus, and it's called fear. Breaking the rules opens our emotional wounds and creates emotional poison. Everything that is in this book of the law has to be true. Anything that challenges what you believe is going to make you feel unsafe. Even if what I believe is wrong, it still makes me feel safe. This is why we need a great deal of courage to challenge our own beliefs, because even if we know we didn't choose all these beliefs, it's also true that we agreed to them. The agreement is so strong that even if we understand the concept of it not being true, we feel the blame, the guilt, and the shame that occur if we go against the rules. Oh, I just think it's fascinating because we all come to a place in our lives where we get to decide, no two people are going to believe exactly the same thing. It's just not possible because of the way that our brains work. You are a complete compilation and accumulation of ideas and thoughts and things that you've been exposed to in your life, your family system, society. You're just so unique that I know for so long I was afraid to get outside the box because it was safer inside the box, but I did not experience freedom. There was a lot of bondage in that box. I'm reading a great book now called Faith Shifts, and one of the big points is we have to be willing to have conversations. It's not like, oh, nope, and ignore all the evidence of something and just say, well, Scripture doesn't agree with that. So I don't know. There's a lot that could go on in that conversation, but that's not really where I want to go. I just want to point out some of these things because this was really important part of my process, understanding and growth. So to be alive is the biggest fear that humans have. Death is not the biggest fear. Our biggest fear is taking the risk to be alive, the risk to be alive and express what we really are. Just being ourselves is the biggest fear of humans. We've learned to live our lives trying to satisfy other people's demands. We've learned to live by others' points of view because of the fear of not being accepted and of not being good enough for someone else. During the process of domestication, we form an image of what perfection is in order to try to be good enough. We create an image of how we should be in order to be accepted by everyone else. Not being perfect, we reject ourselves. This idea of perfection, which doesn't exist, by the way. So the level of self-rejection depends on how effective the adults have been in breaking our integrity. After domestication, it is no longer about being good enough for anybody else. We're not good enough for ourselves because we don't fit with our own image of perfection. It makes it hard to forgive ourselves for not being what we wish to be, or rather what we believe we should be. And we cannot forgive ourselves for not being perfect. We know we're not what we believe we're supposed to be, and so we feel false, frustrated, and dishonest. And then we start hiding. We try to hide ourselves and pretend to be what we're not. The result is that we feel unauthentic and we wear social masks to keep others from noticing. We're so afraid that somebody else will notice that we are not what we pretend to be. We judge others according to our image of perfection as well, and naturally they fall short of our expectations. We dishonor ourselves just to please other people. We all have the need to be accepted and loved by others, but we first have to start with accepting and loving ourselves. And that, again, means we may have to break some of these old agreements that we've made and make some new one. One single agreement is not such a problem, but we have many agreements that cause us to suffer and that make us fail in life. So if you want to live a life of love and joy and fulfillment, then we're going to have to find the courage to go against, at times, the domesticated process that we were a part of and decide what's true and right for us. We have to have the courage to break those agreements that are fear-based and claim our personal power. The agreements that come from fear require us to expend a lot of energy. But the agreements that come from love help us to conserve and even gain energy. Each time you break an agreement, all the power you use to create it returns to you. And if you adopt these 4 new agreements, they will create enough personal power for you to change the entire system of your old agreements. And I would have to say when and where they need to be changed. So I know it's a little long, fascinating topic. You can always get the book, and next time we will go into the second agreement, which is not to take anything personally, and that is powerful information. And so thank you for being with me this morning. I hope you have an amazing day. Take care of that beautiful brain of yours, and do your best to be your best, undomesticated self, and stand in your truth today.